Okay. So yeah, as Luke said, I'm going to be talking through. I went through burnout, so you don't have to. Luke's already said he's had some experience with it, so one of the stories that I'm going to be sharing is one of his, but I'm going to keep it anonymous. And if you do want to send me questions afterwards, there is my Twitter handle on screen at the moment, saying at eccentric tester. I'll make sure that's up at the end as well, just in case people don't catch it now. So I guess for anyone who doesn't know me, I started out about 5 years ago as a test consultant, so baby tester, now QA test lead, um, in quite a big company. If you want to tweet me about other things that are testing related rather than mental health or dev work, I'm into mobile testing, performance, agile, and just general testing processes. And if you don't, I know you've got any recommendations for board games, maybe not gigs at the moment because kind of not many on at the right now, or food because I've been baking a lot. So if you want to send me some baking recipes, I'd appreciate that during lockdown. So, guess general idea of what I'm going to be covering is what is burnout, what are the signs of burnout, as well as a couple of personal stories, just so you can get an idea of how bad it can get if you don't look after yourself, and how you can help yourself and others as a manager, as a friend, or as a colleague. So I'll try and make this as sweet as possible because it feels weird not having all your faces staring back at me. So, what is burnout? It's becoming exhausted by making excessive demands on energy, strength, or resources. It was first referenced in the 1970s, but it's only just now being recognised as a medical condition by the World Health Organization, which means that workplaces are actually starting to take it as a serious problem, and address people's employees' needs a little bit more, which is why I do want to chat about it because it is now a thing. So I guess the stages of burnout are your honeymoon period at work, which is everything's great, you're happy, you probably just started a new job. So everything's going pretty well. This is generally how most things start, is you're happy. Then there's sort of that light stress stage, like it's a little bit difficult. You're probably saying yes to everything, taking on quite a lot of work. That's fine. A little bit of stress is okay as long as you're managing it. But if you're not paying attention or looking after yourself, that'll lead to chronic stress, which is probably why you've seen a couple of devs flip over their laptops or want to throw things out of the window. And then that leads more to actual burnout, where you're exhausted, you don't really want to do anything, you're a little bit unmotivated, to the point where you reach chronic burnout and you simply can't really do your job anymore. You're just really, really struggling. So I guess the questions you want to ask yourself at each point of this is, do you have a good work life balance? Um, do you have a good work balance, which is, are you handling everything within your workplace? Because burnout seems to happen most commonly during people's careers. So looking at how many things you're picking up, how much extra stuff you're doing beyond your role, and making sure you've got a balance with your manager and you're chatting about that. Um, One of the other things is feeling in control, as people who experience burnout tend to spiral quite quickly, and don't feel like they've got any control over any parts of their life. And as Rachel quite well put it, you can't pour from an empty teapot. So, are you refilling your teapot? Are you taking time away? Are you looking after yourself? Are you taking a break, and refilling yourself in a way that isn't just all work or contributing towards having more stress? If you're doing that, you're doing great. Good job. Um, Probably not got anything to worry about. If you've answered no to any of those or most of those, take some time for yourself. So, guess leading on from that is, are you becoming more cynical and irritable, in your workplace, with your friends, family? Have you Do you drag yourself to work? Don't really want to go there. Might stand in the shower for an extra 10 minutes or press snooze a couple more times. Or when you do get to work, you probably make a cup of coffee, have breakfast instead of actually opening up your laptop and just starting your day. Um, you don't feel like you have like a constant flow throughout your day. So you kind of have random bursts of energy rather than you're consistently productive throughout your day. So you might want work up until 10 a.m. and then need a half-hour break before you can even carry on working again and just get away from your desk. And then the other thing would the final one is, have you noticed any physical changes? Which I've missed a question mark. That's annoying me. Um, have you noticed any physical changes in yourself, such as changes in appetite or general demeanor, or maybe you feel physically more tired or a little bit unwell? as they can actually be contributing factors for realizing you have burnout are physically feeling unwell. So, moving on from generally answering those questions, there are 3 types of burnout which people might relate to more than others, and I'm gonna go through all 3 of them because I've only experienced 2 since I've had burnout twice, which I don't recommend, and which is why I'm giving this talk. So the first one is boredom, which is, I guess, what most people might be feeling during lockdown because you can't go outside, kind of what it says on the tin, you're a bit bored, you're lacking challenges, lacking direction because you feel a little bit stifled, you're stuck at home all day. So you tend to struggle because you haven't got those sort of extra things that you would have during the workday of a tester coming up to you and saying, "Hey, have you seen this thing? It looks a little bit weird," and having an extra 20-minute conversation that's challenging you in a different way. So you're missing out on a lot of those conversations. But normal day to day, it would just be you just don't feel like you're living up to doing your job. Outwardly, it'll come across as apathy, disinterest, and cynical to everyone surrounding you. So you just might seem a little bit inward on yourself. You don't really care about picking up extra things anymore, and just generally have no real interest in doing your work. Moving on to the frenetic type. So this is a bit more of you've got to go fast. It's a newer person to a role or a newer person to a career. So say a junior developer, junior tester, you may be 2 years in, you'll say yes to everything. So you're overworking, you're massively being challenged and you're achieving everything. So you feel really, really great about the work that you're doing, but you're exhausted and you have no idea why. It's probably because you've taken on too much. And you can be seen as a little bit aggressive in the workplace because you're just like, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, I'll do that, and volunteer to everything that you want to do, which isn't always the best choice. The final one, which is the worn out stage type of burnout. So this can be a more senior role, more managers. You feel a little bit isolating. You're typically a bit vacant and despondent in your role. You don't feel like you've got any control over your work. You feel like it's stagnating because you've not really got any progress anymore. So you've just reached that point of exhaustion and you're a little bit burnt out doing the same thing day in, day out. So the not so fun anecdotes. So these are things that I've experienced, that my friends have experienced when they've reached that probably more extreme point of burnout. So for me, it was going to sit in another part of the office because it was quiet and I needed to get away from people. But that was the reason I was giving people. It was so that I could sit and scroll through Twitter for half an hour because I just couldn't handle being sat at my desk working anymore. And then people wouldn't see me scrolling through Twitter for 20 minutes just to get away and escape. So you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're not doing it because, oh, I'm more productive in the quieter part of the office like you used to do. You're doing it to avoid your whole situation. Another one of mine, which slightly dramatic, and I'm obviously always melodramatic on the best of days. I'd set my alarm half an hour early so I could just sit in the bottom of the shower and often cry before going to work. That was probably when I was at my worst. I just couldn't face getting up and dealing with the day anymore, and I didn't want to be there or do anything. So I had a family member chat about it. Their burnout got to the point where their hair quite literally started falling out. So these are really extreme examples, but they seem to be really common stories. So I got put on a watch list being put on a watch list and visiting the doctor every 4 weeks because my mental health had declined quite badly, and then had counselling every week for 2 months just to kind of deal with some of the things I was going through. Which obviously, when your GP is worried about you, you've probably reached a level where you're not doing very well. But these are very real things that do happen. So there are people who will help you if you need it. And friend reached the point of burnout where they totaled their car. Turns out a couple of people have done that actually when I've asked them about it. So my friend is not the only one. I've had a colleague and somebody else in my family say that they have actually totaled their car because they're that exhausted traveling to and from work that they stopped paying attention and crashed. And obviously that was an expensive situation to get into. And yeah, that's all. That's the anecdotes. They're quite extreme. as I said, but they seem to be really, really common stories that people who on podcasts, family members, everything have all shared before. And I guess one thing to note is a holiday won't fix it. As a key point, going away for 2 weeks and spending some time on a sunny beach is just going to leave you with all this stuff to come back to anyway, because maybe you're in a higher position and you're exhausted, so things are going to wait for you, or you're part of a team where you're a key worker, so things tend to build up. So going away just means you're probably going to come back to even more work, so it's not a good way to escape it. So actual ways to help yourself. So be honest. If you are struggling, kind of be aware of it and then take time to reflect for yourself. Don't Juliet your job, which the whole concept of Romeo and Juliet is you will be another person and you're completely independent of your job or your social life, or maybe you get hobby burnout or social burnout. You don't need to romanticize the notion that it's the only thing that goes on in your life. There are other things. Self-care, which I've got some techniques for on I think the next slide, which is going through like ways that you can look after yourself and take time. And then the Mind Tools Burnout Questionnaire has 15 questions on it, which you can go have a look at. I will probably post a link on Twitter after this, just so it's a bit easier for people to find if they want to have a look. It just asks you kind of simple questions about how you're feeling, for you to kind of take that time to introspect on what's going on. And especially at a time like this, it might be quite helpful for people. So self-care, it sucks. I'm not going to deny that. Mental health and looking after yourself takes hard work. I have no idea where this quote came from, and I loved it. It isn't relaxing baths and chocolate cake. Self-care is building a life that you don't need to escape from. So whether that is looking after yourself in meditation, doing your laundry to make sure you have clean clothes, going to the gym when you really, really don't want to, or the biggest thing for me was meal prep, because I regularly found that I'd eat a bar of chocolate for dinner and then that'd be it. And I wasn't eating a balanced diet anymore. So really, really basic fundamental things about looking after yourself, such as feeding yourself correctly, do play a really, really big part in making you feel better. And then there's some of the extra nice stuff like having peppermint tea or a warm bath, taking a brisk walk, things like that. Just really, really small tasks that are on top of the basic care of looking after yourself. And it's hard to do when you really, really don't want to do it. But when you're down to your last clean t-shirt, probably need to start doing laundry. And then tips as a manager. So this is more if you've got direct reports that you kind of have noticed or have come to you to chat about burnout. Managing the whole person, which outside of their job, so checking in on them personally and getting to know them, really goes a long way to helping with burnout, because just managing them and their work will only go so far. If you can't help them outside of work and how they're dealing with things, they're not going to bring their whole self to work, and they're probably not going to get better if you want to help them as a manager. Manage expectations. So if they really, really can't meet what they're expected to do at that time, you can coach them into doing better or taking time out, and generally looking after themselves. So they still need to do their core role, and communicating what's needed does help, because sometimes when you're going through burnout, you forget what the main fundamental roles of your job are. So just reminding people of helpful. Mixing it up. So if you can, swapping around parts of their role, getting more involved in things that they can like explore. If it's really small, like things that they need challenging on, then go for that. And the last one is it won't fix itself. It won't go away quickly. It takes time, and bearing that in mind, that the person going through burnout does need to work on it, and it's not going to be they'll be fine in a week. So managing your own expectations of them is key, because as a manager there are pressures, so making sure that you are aware of what they need as well and it's not going to go away is something that really, really needs hammering home. And then as a friend and colleague, so I said don't solutionize. I don't know if solutionize is the word or not, but it's that sort of thing that I think everyone in tech wants to do, is like fix their problems for them. So if they want to chat to you about something, don't immediately give them advice, just sit there and listen. Be present, which I guess right now is a bit of a weird one, but being there for them when they actually need it and chatting to them and going through that, whether that's on a FaceTime call, and actually knowing that somebody is available has helped in the past. So actually letting them know that you're there will make a huge difference. Checking in on people, especially now, even just sending like a really simple message to see how people are doing and catching up with them every now and then can make a huge difference. And then the last one is helping them realign. So when they say things that sort of seem a bit out of character for them, chat to them about it. Don't pull them up on it in a like abrupt way, but like make sure that they seem out of character and that you are worried about them, and just helping them kind of get back to where they are in what they're used to being in their typical behavior, might help them spot when they're having problems. And remember, it does get better. So, like everything that I talk about when it's mental health related, it will get better, and you will, if you put the work in, you definitely will feel a difference, especially during like lockdown and feeling bored. But I promise you, if you put the time in and look after yourself, it will get easier. And if anyone has any questions or just wants to chat to me about anything, it's at eccentric tester on Twitter. And I'm pretty much on the internet permanently at the moment, so feel free to drop me a message anytime you want.